Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to DaveyJay Today. I'm your host, DaveyJay, and today we're going to be talking about The Last of Us on HBO, specifically Season 1, Episode 1. Davey, 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 Davey. Now I know I'm a little bit late to the party, but that's because I already filmed this about 2 different times. And the first time I filmed this episode, I literally sat in this chair for about 36 minutes talking about every single thing that happened in this episode. Everything. So boring. I watched it and I was editing it and putting it together, and I spent hours editing it, and I was like, if they're going to watch this, why don't they just watch the episode? Anyways, I wanted to do a little review, tell you what I thought, tell you where I think the episode and the season is going and where I want it to go, and just my overall thoughts on the casting compared to the video game. So with that, let's start it off by talking about Pedro Pascal. Excellent casting choice. He is the king of staring and having 1,000 different emotions just by the look on his face, and that's a rare feat to have as an actor. They also cast Nico Parker, who I'd never heard of before this episode aired. She plays Joel's daughter, Sarah, and we follow her around initially, and you think that she was the main protagonist of the episode. Spoiler alert, if you've played the video game, you know that she gets within the first 20 minutes of the video game, and it's what really drives the story. So we begin our episode with a brilliant cold open where they're on the set of an ABC talk show talking about diseases, and they have 2 guests. One's an author and one's a guy who believes that, bacteria and viruses will be the cause of a pandemic. So the talk show host is like, and do you feel the same way? And this guy's like, no, not at all, because whenever there's been viruses, humans have always won. There's a war for a little bit, and we are set back, and we ultimately find a cure. Humankind ultimately wins. And then he's like, so what do you think caused the end of the world as we know it? And he says, fungi. And the audience kind of laughs. He's like, yeah, that's the common response from everyone. But when you think of it, where do we get LSD from? Where do we get psilocybin? All of those hijack the mind, and they seek not to kill but to control their hosts. So what happens when they climb from person to person and they want to control each and every person on this earth? There's like a pause, and everybody's kind of watching with their jaws open.
So if that happens,
we lose.
And then, boom, you get the introduction, which is perfect. It's an awesome CGI animation with the brilliant Last of Us main title. And it's fungus growing up into a city skyline, and then it makes the shape of the continental United States. And then it basically ends with 2 spores, one short, one tall, and it's basically Joel and Ellie walking side by side for a perfect intro. And then we pick up with Joel. And yes, it's very The Walking Dead-ish. I feel like The Last of Us did what Fear the Walking Dead should have done. They should have showed us the collapse of society, step by step, one by one. And not saying that The Last of Us necessarily does that, but we see a child wakes up in the year 2003 because it takes place 10 years before The Last of Us video game in 2003 rather than 2013, which makes perfect sense. And honestly, I like that aesthetic choice because you don't have all the smartphones and all the screens and all the iPads and all the instant news like you would in 2013, and especially now where you get news instantly at the palm of your hand, or even on an Apple Watch. You just look and you're getting news updates constantly. With this, it's very layered. You don't necessarily know right away that the world's ending. You hear this report on the radio when they're all eating breakfast. And by the way, Tommy comes in while they're eating breakfast, and that's basically where we're introduced to all the main characters. Joel, Sarah, and Uncle Tommy, who's played by Gabriel Luna, who honestly I haven't seen since Terminator Dark Fate, but he seems to be pretty good as Tommy, and he was great in Terminator Dark Fate. Almost a show stealer as the Terminator. So I'm excited to see more of Uncle Tommy. It's not absolute chaos right away. Joel's like, I gotta go to work, so him and Tommy go out, and they're gonna give Sarah a ride to school, and the neighbors are like, we'll see you after school, and you can tell that Sarah and Joel have a relationship with these neighbors. She goes there after school, and she's like the sweet young neighbor kid that comes over and makes cookies with them and stuff like that. And, oh yeah, also, just like the video game, you find out it's Joel's 36th birthday, which, Pedro Pascal, sorry man, you're a great actor, but you're not 36 years old. She takes the money to fix the watch, so after school, she goes to the watch store, which is so cool. It has this awesome window that looks like a watch face. Anyways, the guy's like, I fixed for $20. So he fixes the watch for Joel, and that's going to be Joel's birthday present from Sarah. And then the watch store owner's wife is like, you gotta close up now. I'm sorry, honey, you have to leave. And he's like, I'm working. We're open until 7. And she's like, no, we need to close now. Obviously, she heard a news report, something crazy going down. So Sarah leaves the watch store. And before Sarah goes home, she just decides to go to the neighbor's house. And she's like, oh, you want to help me make cookies? So they make some oatmeal raisin cookies. They're still trying to feed the elderly woman who's in a wheelchair, and she's obviously lost her appetite and she won't eat. So she's like, oh, can I borrow a DVD? And she's looking at the DVDs, and behind her you can see the elderly woman like twitch out, like not making noise, but you see her making weird faces with her, making these weird, crazy Jim Carrey type faces, and it's just like, whoa, that's kind of scary. It reminds me of It Chapter 2, when you got the out-of-focus grandma in the background doing crazy stuff. Anyways, you're like, okay, there's something definitely wrong here. So she's like, can I borrow DVD? So she grabs Curtis and Viper, just like in The Last of Us 2, because we all know that that is Joel's favorite fictional 80s action movie.
What movie are you guys gonna watch? What's Joel into?
Curtis and Viper 2. That's the one that's been on my radar for a while.
Oh, wow.
Well, we used to watch these cheesy 80s action movies. He's really into them.
And so she's like, good, I got the watch fixed, I got the DVD, and it's my dad's birthday. And she goes back home. They sit down to watch the movie. Joel gets home from work, and she's like, hey, I got your watch fixed. And he's like, oh, thank you, just like in the video game. And he's like, how'd you afford that? And she's like,
drugs. I sell hardcore drugs.
just like in the video game.
Where did you get the money for this?
Drugs. I sell hardcore drugs.
That's another thing. This house looks exactly like the video game house. And as a video game player, I appreciate that. So they fall asleep. Joel gets a phone call from Tommy.
But I'm in jail.
God damn it.
What's my fault this time? It's a fucking madhouse, Joe. I gotta get out.
Idiot.
He tucks Sarah in, and then you can tell it's like 2 or 3 hours later. Sarah wakes up. She hears all these noises. It's complete chaos outside. She looks outside the window, and there's explosions. She goes downstairs, and the neighbor's dog is there, and she's like, that's weird. So she goes to the neighbor's house next door, and once you know it, the elderly lady from earlier has infected all the people that she lives with, these 2 other elderly people. There's all over the floor. She looks up, and there's this really scary moment. It's like, okay, Sarah, you're going to need to run. And so she runs out the house, and Joel pulls up with Tommy in the pickup truck, and they take out the infected. Boom! And these are different infected. They're not like the Walking Dead zombies that bite. These things are like nasty fungus. Ugh. They have tendrils coming from their mouth. Ugh, they're so gross. Very well done. From then on, they're driving, and everybody's panicking and screaming, and they're like, should we pull over and help them? No, we got a kid too. We got to keep going. And then you see this airplane go boom and crash, and everything stops. And all of a sudden, Joel is cradling Sarah. She's got a hurt ankle, so she can't run. So he's holding her, and they're like, we got to go to the river.
We are not sick!
it is the saddest scene. And if you've seen the video game, it's way sadder because it's like real people. So, oh boy. 20 years into the apocalypse, we're in 2023, which is now, but also 20 years later, and we see Joel, and he is a shell of his former self. He's just cold to the world, and that stoic Pedro Pascal acting is just heartbreaking at this point. He doesn't care about anything or anyone except for Tess. And then we meet Tess, who's played by Anna Torv. Not a huge fan of the actress playing Tess. Maybe she can bring it back in episode 2. I don't know. They're like, we're looking for a car battery, so they go searching for a car battery, and they end up finding Ellie and Marlene. And Marlene's like, I'm injured, I'm not going to be able to take her west. And he's like, we don't smuggle people. She convinces Joel and Tess to take Ellie, this 14-year-old girl played by Bella Ramsey, who I think Bella Ramsey does a really good job. She has a super unique voice in real life. And in the video game, Ellie, played by Ashley Johnson, who's a great voice actress, she also has a very unique voice. So I think it works. You got the uniqueness of Ellie in the video game, and then the stellar performance of Bella Ramsey in the TV show. And I think it matches perfectly as Ellie. And so Joel, Ellie, and Tess set out on this adventure to sneak Ellie out of the zone so they can eventually get a car battery so Joel and Tess can eventually meet Tommy. All of a sudden, they're sneaking out of town, trying to get out of the Boston QZ, and they get caught by the federal military. And he's like, I'm sick of this stuff, and he basically sits them all down on their knees and has a little infected Tess and puts it up to their neck, negative. Puts it up to Joel's neck, negative. Puts it up to Ellie's neck, positive. She stabs the guy in the leg, and all of a sudden, Joel is in between Ellie and this federal military guard. He's like, move out of the way, Joel, I'm gonna kill her. And Joel freaks out because just like how Sarah was in the beginning, he lunges at him and punches him in the face and basically beats him to D. Anyways, that's pretty much the episode. They walk into the city, sneaking under cover of darkness. There's some amazing CGI. It looks spectacular. So I'm excited to see what happens in episode 2. I'll probably have a review for that. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions down below. I've said my piece. Now it's time to hear yours.